Hello, everyone. This is Ted Check, Public Relations Manager for the International Foundation for Protection Officers. I'm here with Dr. Glen Kitteringham. He is of the Kitteringham Security Group in Canada. And we're here today to talk about a new thing for this year, for 2021, that the IFPO is doing. It's a monthly webinar series for frontline security officers. Dr. Glen, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today, Ted?
Doing good. Very good. Yeah. So, this we just launched this on the website. Just after the first of the year, and I'm very excited about it because it really is going to cater to, as I said, that the frontline security officers, the officers who are on who make things happen. Really, a lot of times they're first responders, and it's where a lot of folks start out. And so it's important to start out the right way. So January 20th is the first webinar. It's called The Challenges and Opportunities of Providing Security During COVID-19. Very, very appropriate. So Glenn, yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So, excuse me. The webinar, as you've just said, is going to be the first of a series of monthly webinars. And what we wanted to do is explore as the title suggests, what are the challenges and opportunities providing security? And it's my belief, not just my belief, that I've seen it, and I've seen it talking to security personnel, I've seen it talking to other security managers, that frontline security personnel are, pardon the pun maybe, but they are frontline in dealing with COVID-19. And I recognize they're not the only ones. There's lots of frontline people out there. There's the shop clerks and bus drivers and all kinds of people that help keep our society going, but they're out there. They do not have the luxury of working from home. And as a result, they're tasked with the challenge of staying healthy, first and foremost, but more importantly, they're tasked with quite frankly, I would almost say some impossible requests to help manage the COVID-19, something as simple as mask enforcement. That's something that law enforcement in many jurisdictions have said that they are not going to do. And I know in some jurisdictions they are now doing that. But it's an extension of their duties around rule enforcement, so to speak, but they're often being given these tasks that are very challenging. And as we've seen in the last several months, the society is there's a lot of challenges going on. It's been exacerbated by the pandemic, but obviously by political situations as well. And there's a lot of really angry people out there, and they see something as simple as being asked to wear a mask as something that they're unwilling to do. And as a result, security personnel are, they're being tasked with enforcing those rules or denying access to premises. And so we wanted to, I've got two guest speakers, Parnell Lee with Brookfield Properties and Jason Gibbon with Cadillac Fairview, and they're both have a lot of responsibility in these areas that I'm asking them to come in. And I'm obviously the host, but they're going to be two panelists we're going to be discussing these issues and the challenges that they're having, from an enforcement perspective in supporting their security personnel. Again, it's not just mask enforcement. It's a number of issues,
Right.
Differences between legal requirements and site policy and enforcement challenges and increased security officer visibility. It's what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is that security personnel are being asked to basically make people feel better, basically from clients, and that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, because I don't know that in many security job descriptions does it say a counselor or social worker or something like that. Yeah, so that's a new wrinkle that that's come about because of
there is. There's a lot of fear out there, right? And there's two sides of this. Obviously, there's a lot of people who think this whole thing is overblown, and then there's obviously a lot of people who think we're not going far enough. And you know, I'm the first to admit that it's really easy for me to, I guess you could say, throw rocks at both sides. But I don't hold political office. I don't have to answer to, my constituents. By the same token, I'm not the owner of a facility who's got, you know, life savings or millions or billions of dollars invested in something and wanting rules to be enforced, for example. Uh, and so I guess one way of looking at this is I feel like the security personnel, like they're square in the middle, and they're
Yeah.
being squeezed from both sides.
Mm. Yeah,
And
that's a tough position to be in for sure.
yeah,
And so it's important to gather as much knowledge and skill as you can, in a short amount of time to deal with this. As we said, it was something that probably no one foresaw, um, that much of this would have happened. That the first that, and I might have mentioned this the last time we were talking together, and that first there was a drop in the need for security officers, and then there was an increase, and like I think I mentioned here, a local security company owner had to buy riot gear, something he never thought that he would ever have to do, but it was at the request of a client. Yeah, so I think this is going to be very, very helpful for folks. And just to give a couple of the particulars, it's for so we said frontline, so any officer, any supervisor. It's going to be about 30 minutes long.
30 minutes long. And I mean, we're gearing it towards frontline personnel, but obviously anybody can register. At this point, just because of the issues around Zoom, I hate to say this, but we are limited to the first 100 registrants. We've capped like just we're capped at 100, but we're going to be closely monitoring that. And if it turns out that is more interest out there, and I hope there is, obviously we'd be looking at trying to extend that cap and allow people that, I will say, as you've already identified, this is in our inaugural webinar. And, so the other thing I'm going to say is, please don't expect perfection from all of us. We're making this up as we're going along, and there's lots of webinars out there, and there's lots of opportunities, but everybody has to start somewhere. And we want to give this a shot. And I want to go back and talk about the frontline security personnel. I mean, part of this is on one level is about the training or lack of training that security personnel have. And don't get me wrong, a lot of security personnel go out and get their own training. But as
Like
we're
with
seeing
the IFPO.
Right, exactly, with IFPO, but we're seeing in many jurisdictions around the world, like legislatively, there's three kinds of training. There's non-existent training, poor training, and good training. And the non-existent training far outweighs the good training. And there are jurisdictions with poor, or what I would call low levels of training. But part of this is a training related issue. But what I'm hoping to be able to do here is let these security personnel know that the challenges that they're experiencing is not unique, and that we've all been there. Like, I've been a frontline security officer. I've done that job. I've been a supervisor. I'd like to think I have a good handle on it, and I've done a lot of research into the challenges that frontline security personnel have, and I am the first to admit the job is grossly underrated. It's a very, very difficult job. It's a thankless job, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think that 90% of the people out there could do that job. They just it's very difficult. They've got a lot of different tasks and lots of responsibilities. And I think the fact that so many security officers are successful is a testament to their own desire to want to do a good job. But I'm hoping with this, not only this webinar, but the whole series of webinars is to let them know that there is training opportunities. They're not alone. they can share their stories. In months to come, we're hoping to hear from secure frontline personnel about what kind of topics they would like us to discuss.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And the other thing, I'm just going to do a quick shout out to IFPO UK. I mean, they're launching a series too,
And Ireland.
I do want to acknowledge that, but I think there's the internet's a pretty big place. I think there's lots of room out there for all of us to be there.
Yeah, just looking at at what's to come in the months, because you've got one every month. So looking at the syllabus, I mean, you're spending 3 on. I think it's very practical. You've got 3 separate seminars on careers in security. So I mean that's great right there. And then also pay. I mean, that's been something that has that's been a challenge in the security industry forever. So you've got how to get paid more.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But going back to what you're saying about you were on the front line. I was in the early to mid 90s, and yeah, I remember. Here's your uniform. Stand here. That was kind of the training. And this was when I was at a hospital, and I kind of made it my own. I found tasks. I found ways to be helpful within the parameters of being a security officer, but still kind of stretching it to a bit to help those, the staff and the patients, So
right.
Yeah, I think that's goes back to what you were saying about if you want to do it right, you'll do it right, and you'll seek out training like what we have here.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, what I'm hearing you describe is your own personal engagement. And I went through that, as I worked as a security officer, one of the areas where I worked in shopping malls, slaughterhouse, during a really violent strike, at commercial high-rise properties, other facilities. I found that the more I looked for opportunities to engage, quite frankly, the faster the day went. And, we worked 12-hour shifts, and, I worked with people who sat there, sat at a desk and did nothing. And then they would constantly complain about how, the pay is crappy and the job is crappy. And, they just sat around and complained all day long. And I really think it's up to each and every one of us to engage in our job, regardless of what we're doing, not just for security personnel. I mean, for everybody, it's that personal engagement with the job. And, talking about training, and to your final point, there's informal training and there's formal training, I'd like to think that this could be considered some kind of informal training, just something to help expand the awareness of the security personnel, to know that they're not alone, and to know that they're having, there's similar challenges all over the world, and to help increase that self-awareness for those security personnel, to help them get through the challenges of, one, the job itself under the best of conditions. But right now we're seeing them suffer through a lot of pretty crappy conditions, and they're being exposed. I mean, one of the things we've been doing here in Calgary is tracking the number of security personnel who have been confirmed COVID positive, and also who are in self-isolation, and that number is fairly high. I mean, we are talking about people who are on the front lines, and that's stressful. And we know it's stressful for them, particularly it's stressful for their families. And this is obviously not unique. That's one of the things that I've heard from what I would call the official government responders, police, fire, EMS. Well, as we both know, frontline security personnel are first responders. They are. I don't care what anybody else says. They're the ones who are often calling first responders to come and help, or letting them know about things. And they're on the front lines. And so they deserve our attention. They deserve training. They deserve acknowledgement. Quite frankly, they deserve better pay. Now, everybody does. But ask 1,000 people, hey, are you paid enough? Everybody's going to say no. So,
exactly. Well, you mentioned formal and informal training, but and one of the things that I did read, and when you go on IFPO.org to register for this, and it is free. The webinars are free, but it says provide recertification for the IFPO, CPO, and then CSSM. So
Yeah.
do I have that right that it will work towards
Yes.
recertifying?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously, that's up to the individual requiring recertification to track that.
Mhm.
But yes, IFPO is providing recertification credits for the webinars towards their
Great.
designation.
Great. So yeah, so if you're a certified protection officer or certified in security supervision and management, it can work towards that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so really that's all folks have to do. It's very simple. Go to ifpo.org. There should be a pop-up as soon as you land on the website, and it will take you to a registration page. But
Yes.
but it's entirely free. And yeah, I think this is very, very important for frontline security
Right.
officers.
Yes. And it's obviously it uses Zoom. And I mean, Zoom is pretty darn easy. I mean, you'll get a link, and on the day of the webinar, just a few minutes prior, log in, and we've made them purposely short at 30 minutes. We're hoping that maybe somebody's on a break, it's something they can watch on their phone, or they can watch from a break room, or if they're at home, I'd like to think it's going to be short and sweet. So, I mean,
Yeah,
if we end up getting, like, we have no idea how it's going to be received out there. It's going to be our first one. We'll see. We might
right.
have 5 people, we might have 99, I don't know, or we might have 500. But people are also going to be given the opportunity to ask questions, and
Oh,
so
great.
we're slated to last scheduled for 30 minutes. But depending upon the questions, and how the conversation's going, it may go a little bit longer.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's cool that are providing for that. That you're allowing that, and yeah, 'cause yeah, if you get on a roll and you're getting good questions, you have high interest. I mean, yeah, it's tough to just cut it right there. So that's good. It's good to hear. So and it'll be third Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern. So the first one will be January 20th.
Correct.
Well, Glenn, I don't want to give up too much more because we want people to go to this thing. So I don't want to give up too much more. I think we encapsulated it right there.
Yeah,
Uh, it's very exciting stuff. So
yeah,
thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm really looking forward to doing this and being involved, and I've got 2 very knowledgeable guest panelists who both worked in industry for many years and have a lot of insight as well. And they've reached out to their own staff to have those conversations. So I really hope that we're going to be able to bring value to the audience.
Great, I think so. So, Dr. Glenn, thanks so much for your time. Everybody, head over to ifpo.org to register for the webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to then after it happens, Doctor, we'll be able to maybe post it here or on the IFPO website.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's part of it is, the expectation that it's going to be recorded, and that it will, we'll have a series of webinars for people to be able to access if they can't make it live, then hopefully they can get to it afterwards and
Sounds
build
great.
a library.
Absolutely, because I mean these days people are often catching things on replay and things like that, just with the way life goes. So that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Doctor, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you. Thank you as well.